Hello and welcome to Nature Days Outdoor Learning Resources, sponsored by the Gower Society. Now my challenge for you today is to make some ice decorations like this one here. My challenge for you today really requires you to have some really cold weather this evening and overnight. So have a look on your weather forecast and see if it's going to freeze. Now you're going to be creating some ice decorations. This is what you're going to need. You will need a range of containers which are of different sizes, or you can do different shapes. Make sure you ask permission and you're allowed to leave them outside overnight. You'll need some string cut into lengths. If you have them, you can also use some water balloons and you can use some food colouring. And what you really need is a freezing cold night. First, we're going to start with our large container. Now go around your garden and see if you can find anything that will fit inside your container and not be too heavy. So I've got here a leaf. Now this will fit inside my large container. Next, find something that will fit inside your middle-sized container. Something interesting, something not too heavy and not higher than the size of your container. And then lastly, for your small container, find an item to go in there as well. Next, cut some string into small lengths. Now these are going to connect your decorations together. So you need to make sure that one end goes all the way down to the bottom of one container and the other end goes down to the bottom of the next container. Then take another piece of string and connect the middle-sized container to your smallest container. Lastly, take a longer piece of string and place it at the top of your biggest container, make a loop and place it back into the container. Now this is going to be your hanging loop, so make sure it's nice and tucked into that container. Now what we're going to do is actually encase those items that you've placed inside those containers in ice. Now obviously we can't force ice into them, and even if we did, they wouldn't be holding that material in place. So we're going to make the ice by pouring melted ice into the containers and then leave it overnight for it to freeze into ice. So we need to get some water. I've got 2 jugs of water here. Now they look identical, but in fact this jug of water is full of dissolved oxygen and dissolved air. This one has got no dissolved air in it at all. And I'm going to use both of them to see what happens. But just to give you a clue, if you think about air, it's a gas. And that gas is not going to be able to freeze overnight like my water does. So if it can't freeze, we're going to be able to see it. So if there's gas inside this water, when the water freezes inside my decoration, I will be able to see that gas. This water, however, has had all the gas taken out of it. So when I pour it in and freeze it, there'll only be water there and the water will solidify and freeze and there will be no gases inside it. Now it's very easy to take all the gases out of your water, and all you have to do is ask an adult to boil the kettle for you and then leave the kettle to cool down. And that cooled boiled water, when the water boils, that's actually lots of gases coming out first of all those bubbles that initially get released when the water gets hot is actually air that's dissolved inside the water coming up to the surface. So once those bubbles have been released, you cool your water down and your water has got no air in it. So I'm going to pour that into my biggest ornament and make sure I cover up my leaf and my string gets trapped underneath the water. Now I'm not going to fill it all the way up to the top because I think I've got quite a big container here. I'm going to just make sure that my leaf and my string are nicely sunk down inside the water. Next, I'm going to take the water that has lots of air dissolved inside it. You might even be able to spot some of that air dissolved inside it. And I'm going to put that into my other containers, making sure I completely cover the leaves inside it and make sure my string is nicely sunk down to the bottom. There, sinking my string in, make sure that it's underneath the water and it's going to stay encased in the ice when the ice forms. That's poke that string down, make sure that it's underneath the water. So now I have my ornament ready to freeze. Now I need to leave that on a place where I know it will get very, very cold and as flat a surface as I can. Leave it there overnight. We'll come back tomorrow, see what it looks like. Next we're going to make some ice baubles. Now for these you need water bombs or water balloons. If you want them coloured, then before you fill them, just squirt a little bit of food colouring into them. Then fill them up to the size you want them, tie the ends and then place them inside a container. So I've got 4 of these water bombs and some of them have been coloured. We've got blue and we've got some yellow food colouring in some, and the others are just going to be white. These I filled up with tap water because it's quite hard to fill them up with pre-boiled water. So we might find there's some of that air which is dissolved in the water left behind when we take them out. So they need to be left somewhere outside so that they're going to freeze. Don't put them into a container where they're too tightly packed, because what happens is this water, when it actually freezes, it will expand and your water bomb will actually get bigger. So don't tie them too tight and make them too full either, or they'll pop before they freeze enough to be able to hold their shape. So we're going to leave them overnight to freeze and have a look at them tomorrow. So now it's the next morning and you can see that it has been a frosty night and there is frost everywhere, which means that the water should have frozen. So let's have a look at our 3 ornaments. Now, if I touch it, you can see it's turned into ice. So all we need to do now is hold on to our string and remove, oh, my string's even frozen, remove the ice from the container. So there we have our large container, our middle one and our little one. Do you remember which one had the boiled water in? Let's have a look. This is our boiled water, which should have no gases dissolved in it. Compare that to our 2 containers which had water from the tap. Can you see the difference? So these are much harder to see through because they are full of bubbles, whereas our one that was boiled is perfectly see-through. So that's the difference from using our boiled and our other water, our tap water. So here we have our water bombs, but let's have a look. Yes, these are solid as well. So to open those up, we will need some scissors. So, oh, squeeze that, bang it on here. That's no longer soft. So here we have our water bombs. I'm just going to cut off the tops. And then we can peel back our balloon. Oh, they're not completely frozen, but so they may squirt out a bit. Oh, like that. Oh, so I've got half the bauble for that one. This one's the same. And this is the same. red one. Not quite cold enough for complete baubles, but still, I think they look quite cool. So if you've got a really cold night coming up, why don't you have a go at making your own ice decorations? And I'd love to see what you create. So please do tweet with the hashtag #NatureDays, or you can put them in the comments in the bottom of the YouTube channel. And don't forget to hit like and to subscribe to find out what the next daily challenge will be. Enjoy!